Hello my dear students, we shall begin with Unit 1, 1.4, Poem, All the World's a Stage. I'm sure my dear students, all of you must have heard about the famous poet William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was an English poet, playwright and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's prominent dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon. The introduction. My dear students, the poem All the World's a Stage is a monologue. A monologue is a loud speech that one makes to himself or herself. So the poem is a monologue from William Shakespeare's play As You Like It. In this poem, Shakespeare compares the entire world to a stage where all men and women, he has termed them, where all human beings perform their allotted role given by God. Every individual has to go through 7 acts. Those are the 7 stages of man's life. The world is compared to a stage where every individual makes an entry and an exit. My dear students, a glance at the first stanza of this poem. It goes, all the world's a stage, and all men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 stages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. A glance at the explanation of this stanza. So my dear students, the poet wants to tell us in this first stanza that the entire world is a stage and all men and women are actors on this stage. Each one of us make an entry and an exit. Each one of us have 7 different roles to play on this stage. The first role that we have to play is that of an infant, a little baby, a baby who is helpless in his mother's arms and at times mewling and puking. He is so tiny and helpless that he has to be cared for by someone. The second role that an individual plays on the stage of life is that of a schoolboy. The poet here has very humorously brought out this stage. The second stage is that of a schoolboy complaining and crying. He goes to school early in the morning with a well-scrubbed, shining face. He carries his school bag and creeps slowly like a snail, unwilling to go to school. He just does not want to go to school, but he is compelled to do so. Let us now focus our attention on the third and fourth stage of life as it appears in the text. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad, made to his mistress's eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths, and bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. So you see, my dear students, the third and the fourth stage of life as the poet has described. The third stage, an individual plays the role of a lover who is breathless and sighs like a furnace with passion for his lover. He keeps singing sad songs to the beauty of his lover all day long. Nothing else matters but his lover in this stage of life. And in the fourth stage of life, an individual is like an aggressive soldier, bearded like a leopard and full of oaths. He swears and is full of courage and is a very daring individual at this point of time. He is jealous where his honor is concerned, and he is quick to quarrel for it. He is ambitious and does useless things for this reputation of his. He even endangers his life for it. The fifth stage of life as it appears in the text. Kindly focus your attention to the text as I read it. And then the justice in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. So you see, my dear students, the next role, that is the fifth role, is that of a mature middle-aged man with a round belly. He has grown fat because probably he has not maintained a good diet. Yet, he is stern and formal, and he is full of wisdom. He is keen on justice, and his opinions are very wise. He hates bribery. He is full of wise sayings, and he gives modern examples to people who seek his advice. The sixth stage of life as it appears in the text. Kindly focus your attention. This stage shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful horse well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. So you see, my dear students, man has now reached the sixth stage of his life. In the sixth stage, man has become old. His legs have grown thin. His thin legs and his slippers with loose pants tell us about his sad condition, his growing age. He has spectacles on his nose and a pouch on his side. The close-fitting stockings which he had saved from his younger days are now too big for his thin legs, which have shrunk with age. His loud voice, which was once manly, has now become childish and shrill. There are whistling sounds when he talks. Let us now focus our attention on the last stage of life as it appears in the text. Last scene of all, that ends this strange eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. So you see, my dear students, man has finally reached that last role which he has to play on the stage. And that last role is the role of a very old man. He has become so old that it is similar to a second childhood. He is unaware of what is happening around him. This is a final stage when he is without teeth, without vision, without taste, and without anything. He is helpless, and he is similar to that little infant that we seen in the first stage, who is helpless in the arms of the nurse. My dear students, let us take a look at the poetic devices used in this poem. You will notice that there is no rhyme scheme used in this poem. However, Shakespeare has used lines with a steady rhythm of 5 beats in each. It is termed as blank verse. Hence, this poem is a blank verse. You will also notice that the poem contains plenty of imagery. Now, what is imagery? Imagery is a picture created in the mind by using words. We come across many such images as the poet describes the various stages of life in the poem. The schoolboy crying to school, the soldier, the judge, the senior citizen are all examples of imagery wherein an actual picture of that stage of life is created in our mind. Figures of speech. The poet has used plenty of figures of speech in this poem. Some of them are the simile, onomatopoeia, alliteration, metaphor, inversion, and transferred epithet. Okay, my dear students, we shall now move to our grammar section, taking up a new topic, figures of speech. I'm sure all of you are acquainted with this topic. You have been learning it in the previous years. What are figures of speech? Figures of speech are expressions that depart from the ordinary mode of speech in order to achieve a more powerful, pleasing, or distinctive effect. In other words, figures of speech are nothing but ornaments that make language more effective. We shall take a few figures of speech that are related to this poem. We begin first with simile. A simile shows likeness between two things. It is usually introduced by words like or as. In other words, a simile is that figure of speech wherein two unlike things are compared using the words like or as. Take a look at the examples given to you, my students. He is as vain as a peacock. He rose like a lion. In both the examples, we see that two unlike things have been compared using the words as or like. So in short, a simile is a figure of speech wherein two unlike things have been compared using the words like or as. I hope that is clear to you. Let's focus our attention to the next figure of speech. A metaphor. A metaphor is an implied simile, a comparison that is made without using the words like or as. Take a look at the examples. He was a lion in the fight. Her words were a dagger to my heart. We can see in both the examples that two unlike things have been compared without using the words like or as. And that's the difference between a metaphor and a simile. A simile compares two unlike things using like or as, whereas a metaphor compares two unlike things without using the words like or as. Alliteration. This consists in the repetition of the same letter or syllable at the beginning of two or more words. For example, a load of learning lumbering in his head. The snake slept under the spray. Students, you can see the alphabets in example A. The alphabet or the syllable L, which we would pronounce as L, has been underlined. So in example A, there is a repetition of the syllable or the letter L. When we have a repetition of this kind, it is called an alliteration. Similarly, you can see in example B, the snake slept under the spray. You can hear the repetition of the sound S, that is S. And hence, the second example is also an example of an alliteration. So, alliteration consists in the repetition of the same syllable or the letter at the beginning of two or more words. Take a look at onomatopoeia. Here, the words convey the sound of the object or ideas expressed. Students, I want you to focus your attention on the difference between these two figures of speech. Please do not confuse them. Alliteration, letter or syllable has been repeated, whereas in onomatopoeia, it's the sound of the object that has been expressed. For example, the cart rattled along the road. Now here, it's not a repetition of syllable or letter, but it's the actual sound made by the cart. In the second example, the snake hissed under the grass. Again, here it is the sound that the snake made, the sound of hissing, and therefore the snake hissed, and hissed is the sound. It's the figure of speech, onomatopoeia. Similarly, we could point out to more examples: the tick-tock-tick of the watch, the whoosh-whoosh of the washing machine. We have plenty of such examples. So onomatopoeia is basically the words that convey the sound of the object or ideas expressed. Inversion. Here the words are not written in a normal order. In other words, the words are not written in correct order. The words are inverted for a poetic effect. Take a look at example A. 20 summers did he live. Now this is perhaps a poetic line, and the poet has written it in this manner. Though it sounds incorrect, he has written it in this inverted manner for a poetic effect. The correct order should be, he lived for 20 summers. Transferred epithet. Here an epithet. What is an epithet? An epithet is an adjective, my dear students. An adjective is a describing word. So here an epithet is transferred from one noun or pronoun, or from one person or thing to another noun or pronoun, or to another person or thing. The very word transferred tells us transfer, to move from one place to another. So when an adjective moves from one noun or pronoun to another noun or pronoun, it is called a transferred epithet. Take a look at the example. He looked at me with sad eyes. In the above example, it is the man who is sad, not the eyes. So here the epithet sad is transferred from he, the pronoun, to eyes, the noun.